Let's start here. How you greet the morning shapes everything that follows. I've noticed that many men over 60 begin drifting into a kind of passive rhythm, not because they're lazy, but because they've simply lost the cues that once told them, you've got a reason to get up. The body slows down, the mind feels cloudy, and it's easy to stay under the covers longer than you need to. You might skip breakfast, scroll your phone for a while, and realize the morning's half over before you've even taken a full breath. That gentle slide into stillness doesn't just affect your schedule. It quietly chips away at your confidence, your clarity, and that grounded sense of masculinity you used to carry without question. And I want you to hear this clearly. It's not about pretending you're 25 again. It's about choosing to feel present, capable, and in control of your day, starting with the first 30 minutes. I've worked with men across the country who've quietly admitted that the mornings feel especially empty after retirement or after losing a partner. Frank, a 67-year-old retired mechanic from a small town in Ohio, once told me, "I used to get up before the sun, had my boots on before the coffee was even ready. Now I wake up at 10, sit in my recliner, and I don't feel like I'm in charge of anything anymore." Frank's blood pressure was creeping up, his energy was dropping fast, and emotionally, he felt flat. Another man, Leonard, 72 from Arizona, shared something similar. His wife had passed 3 years earlier, and since then, he said the house felt too quiet to get out of bed for. He stopped shaving, stopped eating breakfast, and told me, "I just didn't see the point." We started small. I asked Leonard to get up just 30 minutes earlier, wash his face, put on a clean shirt, and sit near the window while eating something with protein. 3 weeks later, his whole energy was different. He told me, "I don't know why, Doc, but I feel like a man again, just by showing up for myself in the morning." What I've seen work best is this. Take back your mornings. You don't need a full workout or a complicated routine, but wake up a little earlier than usual, even just 30 minutes. Wash your face with cold water, brush your teeth, maybe shave. If you're used to it, put on a shirt that makes you feel good, not just something old and stretched out. Make a simple, protein-rich breakfast, eggs, yogurt, even peanut butter on toast, something that tells your body, we've got fuel. Then walk, even if it's just to your mailbox and back. These little steps aren't just chores, they're signals that your body still answers to your leadership. It may seem like a small shift, but reclaiming the morning is one of the most powerful messages you can send yourself. You are still here, you still have choices, and those first choices of the day? They whisper to the rest of you, "Let's go, I'm still in this fight." Even if the world feels quieter now, your voice still matters. Start the day like, you mean it. Let me tell you something I've seen over and over. It's not the lack of a gym membership that takes away a man's strength. It's the absence of movement that matters to him. As men get older, the idea of exercise starts to feel more like a chore than a solution, especially if the knees hurt, the back aches, or you just don't see the point of lifting weights under bright lights in a room full of strangers. The real danger isn't skipping the gym, it's falling into long stretches of stillness that slowly shrink your energy, your flexibility, and even your mood. When the body stops being used with purpose, it begins to stiffen, and that stiffness sends a quiet message to the brain. You're not needed anymore, but you are. And what your body really needs isn't just movement, it's movement that means something to you. Years ago, I had a patient named George, 71, a retired bus driver from Tallahassee. He came in complaining about stiffness in his hips and ankles, but what concerned me more was the heaviness in his voice. "Doc, I just feel like I've stopped being useful," he said, looking down. I asked about physical activity, and he laughed. "You think I'm doing push-ups at this age? I can barely touch my socks." But a few months later, something changed. His grandson asked if he'd help build a backyard treehouse. George wasn't sure he could do it, but he said yes. They started with short sessions, just measuring and cutting wood, then a bit of hammering, and over time he was out there a few hours each week. He told me later, "My body's sore, but it's the kind of sore that feels like I earned it." The stiffness eased. He lost a little weight without trying, and more than anything, his energy returned, not just physically, but emotionally. Another man I remember well is Curtis, 68, from Idaho Falls. He never liked exercise either, but he began helping his neighbor repair old bicycles for local kids. That simple act, standing, bending, tightening bolts, brought life back into his hands and something else into his eyes: pride. None of these men started with the goal of getting fit. They just found movement that mattered. What I've seen work best is this: Don't think about exercise as punishment. Think about movement as service. Walk, of course, but go beyond that. Help carry groceries, rake the yard, fix a broken chair, plant something, wash the car by hand, stretch while listening to the radio. These actions are not small. They are signals that your body is still useful and your hands still have purpose. You don't need fancy machines. You need a reason to move that feels real. There's a difference between motion and meaning. You could walk on a treadmill for an hour and feel nothing inside, or you could carry wood for a fire and feel like a man again. That spark of purpose, it lights up muscles, but it also lights up your spirit. You don't have to lift weights to feel strong. You just have to lift something that matters to you. That's where it all starts coming back. Here's something I always tell the men I work with. Losing a job doesn't mean losing yourself, but that's exactly how it feels for many after retirement. For decades, your identity is tied to what you do. You're the engineer, the builder, the teacher, the provider. And then one day, that title fades and no one calls on you the same way. That silence can feel like a kind of erasure, like the world moved on without asking if you were ready to stop. Add to that the grief of losing a spouse or drifting away from adult children. And it's no wonder many older men say they feel like ghosts in their own homes. You start asking yourself, who am I now? I want you to know, this feeling is normal, but it's not permanent. There is still something inside you that's alive, something that remembers what you used to love before life got in the way. I've seen this over and over, and I've lived it in my own way too. I remember one man, Harold, 69, from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was a high school band teacher for over 30 years, known for his passion and discipline. But after he retired and his wife passed, he packed away his saxophone and didn't touch it for almost 6 years. He told me, I just didn't see the point. Who would care if I played anymore? His house got quieter, so did he. But then, one afternoon his neighbor knocked. Her teenage son had just picked up a used clarinet and was struggling. Would you mind showing him a few things? She asked. Harold hesitated, but said yes. That simple yes brought something back. One lesson became 2, then 3, and soon Harold was playing again. Not to perform, not to impress, just to feel like himself. I didn't know how much I missed the sound of my own breath in that horn, he told me. I wasn't teaching music. I was remembering who I was. What often helps most is giving yourself permission to return to what you used to enjoy or explore something brand new just because it interests you. Dust off your old camera, pick up the fishing rod, crack open a book you always meant to read, or join a local club you used to walk past and wonder about. Don't worry about being good at it. That's not the goal. The goal is to feel something again, to wake up and have a reason to look forward to 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Passion doesn't disappear. It just goes quiet until you invite it back. Even the smallest spark can relight a part of you that felt lost. You don't have to travel the world or make big gestures. Sometimes it's enough to turn on the music you loved in your 20s and let yourself hum along. Your soul hasn't forgotten what it loves. It's still there, waiting for your attention like an old friend sitting patiently at the table. You don't need permission to reach for it. You just need a moment of curiosity and the courage to try. Here's something most men I know never got taught. Speaking honestly about your pain isn't weakness. It's one of the strongest things you can do. I get it. You grew up in a time where being a man meant pushing through, keeping it together, carrying the weight in silence. But over the years, that weight adds up. And the truth is, unspoken pain doesn't just sit quietly. It eats at your sleep, your energy, your sense of control. You might not even realize how much tension you've built up until it shows up in your shoulders, your stomach, or in those moments when something small hits you harder than it should. What's worse is thinking you're the only one who feels this way. You're not. I've seen this pattern again and again, and I want to tell you, it's never too late to speak out, even if you're not sure where to begin. I remember one man clearly, Tom, 66, a Vietnam veteran from Colorado Springs. For decades, he carried the memory of a night he'd never spoken about, the night his best friend in the unit didn't make it back. Tom got quiet after the war. His marriage suffered, his sleep was broken, and every time I saw him, he'd change the subject if the conversation got too close to anything real. Then, one evening, he went to a veterans support group, not to share, just to sit in the back. Here's a truth most men don't say out loud. Routines are comforting, but after a while, they can quietly start to cage you in. And the older we get, the stronger that fear of shaking things up becomes. I've heard it from so many men. In their 60s, 70s, even 80s. I don't know if I have it in me to start something new, or what if it goes wrong? That hesitation is real, and I get it. But what I've also seen is that a single bold decision, just one, can be enough to restart the fire inside. You don't have to change everything. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You just need to feel the thrill of doing something that reminds you, I'm still alive and I still choose. There's a man I worked with named Luis, 72, from a small town in New Mexico, retired electrical inspector. He told me he'd always wanted to take a long-distance train ride, just by himself, across the country, to see mountains, cities, forests, things he'd only passed by in books or on TV. But he kept putting it off. One year, he said it was the money. The next, his joints were acting up. Then he just figured, maybe I waited too long. One winter, after recovering from pneumonia and going through a particularly lonely stretch of holidays, he decided to stop waiting. He booked the trip. No fanfare, no big plan, just a ticket and a small suitcase. A week later, he was sending postcards from Chicago, then Denver, then Salt Lake. When I saw him a few weeks after he got back, I asked him what the trip gave him. He said, it wasn't the places, it was the feeling of doing something just, for me, something brave. He smiled when he said it, and I remember thinking, that's what freedom looks like on an old face. What often helps is not overthinking it. Just pick one bold thing, not reckless, but real. Change your haircut, book a trip, go dancing, try the painting class at the community center, or even call someone you haven't spoken to in years and see what happens. You don't need permission. You don't need a reason that makes sense to anyone else. You just need to take that first step towards something unfamiliar. That's what bold looks like now. Not youthful recklessness, but chosen discomfort in the name of aliveness. Even one bold decision can be enough to remind you of who you were and who you still are. You don't have to leap. You don't have to make a scene. Sometimes courage looks like packing a bag quietly. Sometimes it sounds like dialing a number you haven't used in decades. That man who used to take risks, he didn't disappear. He's still in there, just waiting for you to give him one good reason to come back. Which of these 5 steps spoke to you most? Write it in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. And if this video gave you even one new idea, hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell. We'll keep sharing real tools that support your strength, confidence, and joy. Remember, you're not alone. You're stronger than you think. And life, it's still holding your hand if you're willing to hold it back.